If you're asking yourself what to sow this month, well, this is the video for you, because today I'm talking about what to sow in March. Hey everyone, how's it going and welcome back. You only have to take a look at the back of a packet of, well, pretty much any seed at the moment to see that we're just coming into that perfect sowing window of about March, April and May. But here's the best thing about starting sowing seeds in March. If you haven't already got some seeds started back in February or even January, that's totally fine. Doing that, you're really getting ahead of things. So if you haven't got any of that done, you can bring all of those seed sowings forward and start them now. And likewise, if you're a bit rushed this month or you don't get everything sown that you want to get sown, it's fine. You can push it into April and it'll be fine as well. So let's get stuck in and let's talk about the seeds that I'm sowing in March. The seeds that I'm going to be talking about today form by no means an exhaustive list of what you can sow at this time of year. Actually, the possibilities are absolutely endless, but these are the things that I'm choosing to sow and grow this year and that I think you're going to enjoy as well. But as a reminder, before you sow anything, make sure that you know and understand your local conditions. Particularly in the months of March and April, the conditions can really vary wildly, not only from location to location, but from year to year. Like for instance, in Ireland, March is a really pretty unpredictable month. It can still get very cold, very wet. And for seeds that you're not going to be sowing necessarily under cover, but you might be sowing directly into the ground, you don't want to be sowing your good seeds into heavy, wet, cold soil where they're just not going to flourish. Instead, push your sowings towards the back end of the month to guarantee, or at least try to guarantee, a bit more success for yourself. That's exactly what I'm going to be doing. Like I said, it is quite cool here in Ireland, so for that reason, most of these seeds I'm going to push towards the back end of the month before I start sowing them. Right, so let's have a look in the seed box at what we're going to kick off with, and that's carrots. Now, I've grown quite a lot of things in the past, and one thing I've never tried before and truthfully know very, very little about is carrots, to the extent that I didn't even know what would be good varieties to try that would be fairly reliable for a first-timer like myself when it comes to carrots. So I've got Liz Zorab to thank for that. In her March seed sowing video, she mentions a couple of varieties that I'm trying here. She's got a brilliant channel. If you haven't already, go and check it out. And in fact, I'll link her March seed sowing video up above because it's really, really useful. So the two varieties that I'm going with this year are Early Nantes 2 and Amsterdam Forcing 3. Both of these are good varieties for starting nice and early, and I'm going to be successionally sowing these every sort of 3 weeks or so that hopefully I get a nice ongoing crop. Now, rather than sowing these directly into the soil, I'm going to be sowing these into containers, containers that I used last year in the polytunnel, and I'm doing that for a couple of reasons. For starters, it allows me to really nicely control how fine the soil is, so that hopefully I'll get nice, decent carrots, but the other reason is to avoid carrot root fly. I have read that apparently carrot root fly can't either fly or jump very high. So what you do is you plant your carrots in containers and put your containers up quite high, and apparently it helps to deter them. So I'm not too sure how well that's going to work, but I'm going to give it a go. So these are the two carrots that I'm going to be starting off this year. Okay, next up we're talking about peas, because last month I started sowing a first early variety of pea called Meteor. I'm going to continue sowing more of those this month so that I have a nice ongoing harvest of early peas. But now my mind is also starting to shift towards main crop peas, and I've got a nice variety that I'm going to try this year. And that is Pea Hurst Greenshaft. Like I say, it's a main crop variety, and I'm also going to be growing a Mangetout. This Mangetout is called Spring Blush. Now, with peas, around this time of year, you've now pretty much got two options in how you can sow them. You can either sow them directly into the ground in drills and let them grow there. That's what I'm planning on doing with the Hurst Greenshaft and with the Mangetout Spring Blush. But because of the climate here in Ireland, I'm not going to be doing that and directly sowing them until the back end of the month. Alternatively, you could still start them under cover, and you could start all of these seeds in root trainers, pots, or even better, lengths of guttering, which you can then just slide out into your bed when you're ready to grow them on. Right, enough about the peas. Let's talk about the next thing, which is spinach. Now, the last couple of months, I've been starting some perpetual spinach, and in fact, I've got the seedlings here. These were the ones that, believe it or not, I started back in January. They are doing nicely, but they're still pretty small, which just goes to show that although you can sow things very, very early in the year, they're really quite slow to get going. And I can almost guarantee that my March sowing of perpetual spinach is going to catch this up really, really quickly. So I'm going to continue sowing some perpetual spinach, but I'm also going to be sowing some regular spinach because you can start that now. And this is Spinach Medania or Medania. Basically, it is your regular run-of-the-mill spinach that you can buy pretty much anywhere. So the next thing is something I've never tried before, and it's this. It's early purple sprouting broccoli. I never thought I would see the day that I said I was excited about broccoli. But there you go, I'm really excited to give this a go. What's great about this is this seed is a little bit of an investment seed in terms of the plant itself. You sow it now, but it takes quite a long time to mature. But what it promises is a succession of tender shoots in late winter and early spring, which is great because it's going to help fill that hungry gap when there isn't that much in your veg garden to harvest. Now, a bit like calabrese and cauliflower and Brussels sprouts, there's only so much that my household is able to eat at one time. So rather than sowing a lot of these, I'm going to do quite a few sowings of very small numbers in the hope that I can have a nice stretched out period where I can harvest this. Bit of a curveball for you now, because I'm going to talk about a seed that I think you should be sowing that I am not going to be sowing, and that's cabbages. Don't get me wrong, I love cauliflower and Brussels sprouts and calabrese and broccoli, but I don't really like cabbages. I like them when they're in a coleslaw, but I don't eat very much coleslaw. And because of that, it's just not going to be worthwhile for me to grow them. At the same time, though, it would be so remiss of me not to mention sowing cabbages at this time of year. So have a look online, or if you can get to your garden centre, go and have a look, because there are so many varieties to pick from. Go and pick yourself either your favourite variety, or maybe something new that maybe will become your new favourite, and give them a go. I've created other monthly specific seed sowing videos for January and February, and if you've taken the winter off to rest or hibernate, and I don't blame you, the main thing is it's not too late to get those seeds started as well. So what I've done is I've created a specific seed sowing playlist, which I've linked up above, that you can go and check out at your leisure, and hopefully it'll give you some other good ideas or some inspiration for some seeds that you can get going this month. And if you're enjoying this video or you're finding it useful, please consider subscribing down below if you haven't already. So all of the seeds that I've talked about so far could definitely be considered staple things to grow in almost any veg garden. You definitely want to be having those in the veg garden, but it's nice to have something a little bit different, a little bit exciting as well. So I've got a few really cool seeds that I'm trying this year that I want to talk about. The first one is Pak Choi or Bok Choy, depending on how you pronounce it. And I've opted to go with tricolored mix. It's a mix of 3 different F1 varieties. One is called Ruby, one is called Macau, and the other one is called Baraku. So I'm going to be sowing these at the end of March, and I'm going to be sowing them for 2 different purposes. I'm going to harvest little baby leaves to add as something just really interesting into salads, and the rest of them I'm going to let them grow onto maturity and then use them the way you would traditionally use bok choy in cooking dishes. We really like having them in stir fries. And what's nice as well is these aren't just plain green ones. There's a nice ruby colored one as well, so it'll add just a little bit of difference in the harvest of these. So as well as that, I'm also going to be growing some rainbow chard. Now, when you're growing things at home, it's really nice and it feels really special if you can grow something that either you can't get in the supermarket, or it's tricky to get in the supermarket, or it's really expensive to get in the supermarket. And a good example of that is rainbow chard. I very rarely see it in the supermarket. And the reason for that is that it doesn't transport or store very well. And I'm going to be sowing some rainbow chard. That means it comes in a whole load of different colors. There's pinks and whites and yellows. Really, really nice. Again, a bit like the bok choy, you can harvest it as baby leaves, let it grow to maturity and cook it. You can steam it a little bit like spinach, or you can add it into stir fries. But as well as that, it actually just looks really nice. The colors are so vivid that when you have it in the veg garden, it's just going to give that real extra little bit of pop, and it's going to look really cool. So I'll be sowing these. And then the final one, this is mega cool. This is asparagus, and it's Asparagus Ariane F1. Now, I was kindly sent this by my mum, so thank you very much, Mum, for sending me this. And this is a pretty special type of asparagus seed because, wait for it, they claim that you can harvest this within the first year. Yes, the first year. They're saying that if you sow this now, you can get a very light crop of asparagus in August. That is so cool. I eat an awful lot of asparagus. We love it here in the household. So I'm going to be trying this, and I'll report back as to whether it's been successful. I'd be really interested to know if any of you out there have already tried this and what your experiences are with it. So if you have tried it, leave me a comment down below and let me know. I'd love to hear from you. It wouldn't be a seed sowing episode on my channel, would it, if I didn't talk about growing baby salad leaves? And that's because it's not something I've really done that much before, but now that I'm getting into it, I think it's a really valuable thing to do. When you think about the food mileage associated with getting salad to a shop for you to buy, the plastic wastage, not to mention just the sheer cost of buying salads, it makes a lot of sense to grow them yourself. Plus, if you grow a whole range of little baby leaves, you can mix and match depending on what you want, which I think is really brilliant. So I'm going to be continuing with my sowings. Like I said right back in my January seed sowing video, I'm basically starting from scratch. I have really nothing growing at the moment because I'm still only setting up the veg garden. So what I'm trying to put in place is a whole nice selection of successionally sowed salad leaves that I can keep coming back to and keep rolling it through the year. So I'm going to be continuing with what is becoming my regular mix of rocket, kale, which I'll harvest as baby leaves, beetroot, again, I'll harvest it as baby leaves rather than letting it continue to grow to maturity, lamb's lettuce or corn salad. I really love how not only the leaves have this soft texture, but also a really lovely, gentle, soft flavour. And also peas for pea shoots. But I'm going to be introducing something else, and this is a Tuscan leaf salad mix. Really nice leaves, chicory, rocket, lollo rosso, another type of kale. It's a dark kale. Really, really nice. So I'm going to be getting these going towards the end of the month as well. And that's going to give me a nice mix and match salad leaf mix. And March is a really good time not only to be thinking about your vegetable seeds, but also some flowers that you can use as companion planting. Companion planting is really powerful because it gives you a load of advantages in your vegetable garden. At the most basic level, it just gives you some visual interest. You maybe have some nice flowers that you can harvest to bring into the house. But as well as that, it increases the biodiversity in your vegetable garden by bringing in loads of beneficial insects and pollinators, which is just a really overall good thing to be doing for your garden and for the environment. But crucially, if you pick specific plants, they can actually help reduce pest problems that you have on certain plants. So I'm going to be growing some Calendula, which is like a regular pot marigold, and also Tagetes, which are the kind of marigolds that you tend to see on roundabouts and municipal park plantings. Both of these are really good because they attract insects that would otherwise damage your plants. So get those planted and you get the secondary benefit of them having that really lovely bright orange pop of colour to add into the veg garden. The other thing that I'm going to be sowing are sweet pea. Now, the more astute amongst you may notice that this is the second time I'm talking about sweet pea because I started some in January. Well, it wasn't 100% successful. Actually, wait 1 second and I'll go and get it. It was much less than 100% successful. I only got out of a tray of 32 seeds sown, I only got 10 seedlings. So I'm going to need a lot more than that. So I'm going to start sowing some more so that I can have some flowers. I really love sweet pea. Again, It's just that extra little bit of colour and that extra little bit of scent that's going to be really, really nice in the vegetable garden. My plan is I'm going to have a few arches, hopefully, of it that you can walk under, but we'll see. Like I said back at the start of the episode, the seeds that I've talked about for the last few minutes are not the only seeds that you can sow in March. And in fact, there's a whole load more seeds that I'm going to be sowing that I haven't talked about. And the reason for that is that I don't want to make the video really, really huge. And they're all seeds that I've already talked about in previous videos. I made a January seed sowing video and a February seed sowing video. All of those seeds can really easily be sown in March as well. And in fact, that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be taking all of those and sowing some more this month, mainly to increase my numbers, but also to give me a little bit of an insurance policy in case I have any failures. So I'll make sure to link both of those episodes at the end of this episode so that you can go and check them out, and maybe it'll give you some ideas or some inspiration. As ever, I really love hearing from you, so leave me a comment down below and tell me, what are you choosing to sow this month? Or what are you choosing not to sow and why? Because that's always interesting to hear as well. If you enjoyed the episode or you found it useful, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and make sure to hit that bell icon, because that way you'll be notified when I post my next video. And until next time, see you later.